The South African Broadcasting Corporation turned 85 this week. Enough has been said and written about the SABC, and in spite of the stormy seas, it continues to sail forward. We look at the good, the bad, and the politics of Africa's oldest and biggest broadcaster. As usual, we bring you our standard features, the video of the week, and the game changer. Hello and welcome to Media and Society on SABC News, independent and impartial. This is where we give you the platform to probe how news is covered and angles are determined. My name is Rems Mabote and I'm your host. Thank you very much to my brother Peter Ndoro for standing in last week. This show is not complete without your say. Connect with us via our social media channels and share your views and concerns about how the media works and what we feed you. Hashtag SABC Media and Society, and call us on 011-714-6841 or 6842. The South African Broadcasting Corporation was established under Act 22 of 1936, first only in English and later in both English and Afrikaans. Over the years, other language services were introduced, and in 1976, the SABC launched its first television service. But other than being a broadcast service, for decades the SABC became the mouthpiece and propaganda machinery of successive apartheid governments. In short, the SABC became a state rather than a public broadcaster. When democracy arrived in 1994, the SABC was transformed in many ways than one. The boards and management teams reflected the demographics, and programming was also reorganized. But democracy did not end the problems of the SABC. Sooner, politics crept in, and the ruling party began interfering in the editorial policies of the SABC. This led to a lot of strife, and in time it eroded the credibility and reliability of the SABC as a source of news, information, and entertainment. As competition grew and audiences and advertisers moved away from the SABC, this has led to all sorts of problems, not least financial. Joining me to reflect on the years past, today, and plans for the future is SABC chairperson Bongmusa Makhathini. Remember, this show is not complete without your views. We want you to contact us on our social media platforms and share your views. Avash, Sawona, long time no see. 85 years, huge milestone. Does it matter?
Yes, it does. SABC today stands tall as the defender and as a pillar of our constitutional democracy. It has played a significant role in weaving our nation together and really helped to deepen our democracy.
And today as we sit here, you and I, talking about this SABC, and from a society point of view, is it something that I should guard jealously as a South African that we have the SABC?
Yes, SABC is a national treasure that we should all defend. Without an SABC, a public broadcaster that gives credible information, that empowers the nation, that really helps us to drive the ongoing goal of social cohesion, as a country will have no direction.
Are you comfortable that this SABC that you lead today is moving away from that image that I said in the intro, that it was becoming again a state broadcaster? Are you comfortable that we're moving back to being a public broadcaster?
Certainly, we have done quite a lot, working together with stakeholders, our employees, our journalists, really defending the independence and the impartiality of the SABC. If you look at what our team has been able to do during the COVID pandemic, it really shows that SABC is doing its part and is going beyond their call of duty.
That said, only this week, two events made news about the SABC. First, it was that I signed a contract that said you can listen in to my calls and watch my emails to other people. Very controversial clause in the contracts of journalists, in particular of the SABC.
I'll call it a standard employment contract clause that has been part of your employment contract since 2008. So it's been there for quite a long time. But of course, we listened to the concerns raised by different stakeholders about what it could, that clause might be misinterpreted to be meaning. And management has informed the board, because it is an operational matter. They've decided to sort of take out that clause because it can be misinterpreted. But it is my firm belief as a board chair and as a member of the board of the SABC that through our editorial policies, our journalists and their sources are fully protected by our editorial policies, which were launched last year, 2020, in August.
Speaking of fully protected, and then the second story is that the members of the South African National Defence Force who have been protecting the property of the SABC are reported to have made entry into the newsroom of the SABC.
I think we need to correct that. The National Defence Force has been deployed by the Commander-in-Chief to protect all national key points. We had a situation in the country in July that necessitated the protection of our infrastructure and our employees. And based on what management has reported to us as a board, there is no evidence that has been provided that the soldiers were marching in the newsroom. They may have been walking around because for them to be able to guard these premises, they needed to be clear about all the exits and so forth. But it is an operational matter, and if there is any evidence of soldiers marching in our studios, I would like to see that evidence. It must be submitted to management, and I'm sure the management will do what is necessary and report back to the board.
Because, you see, Klabash, there is report, as I speak to you, in some of the media, that actually they were indeed in the newsroom, and in fact somebody says there was even a joke about, may I please use your rifle or something like that.
I would really want to see evidence in this thing, because we also should not position our soldiers as lunatics.
Yes.
People that will just walk in here and interfere. I would want to really know if they did march in, what did they say? Who did they speak to? Where is the evidence to that? And because at the end of the day, if such happened, it will need to be properly investigated. But we should never create an impression that our National Defence Force employees are lunatics that will just walk in and interfere with your day-to-day operations.
Let's talk about the management of this organization. As the board, are you comfortable that you have assembled a strong team, a team that will turn around the fortunes of this organization, but most importantly, a team that will bring the credibility back to the SABC?
When we took over as board in 2017 October, SABC was in a very terrible state. It was in ICU, basically. And we really needed to focus as a board by stabilizing at a board level, stabilizing also at an executive level. We brought in employees that are committed to the SABC. We brought in an executive team that has got the prerequisite skills, the credibility and the skills to turn around this organization. When you look at the turnaround strategy that was put together with the support of the shareholder, a representative, minister, together with the National Treasury, we've been able really to keep the ship sailing. There's already green shoots of profitability coming back. The credibility of the SABC has improved significantly. We see that through the growth in our audience numbers. We also see it with the continuous commitment that South Africans continue to give to the SABC. So I am confident that we have a team of executive members, the team of employees that are committed to really making SABC great.
I know things changed a few days ago, but how would you describe the relationship between the SABC, in particular the board, and the government, in particular the shareholder representative being the Minister of Communication?
Firstly, I would want to congratulate and welcome the new minister and her deputy to the SABC, and we're looking forward really as a board to working with her. But what is important for me, the successful SABC really depends on having a champion in the cabinet. Mm-hmm. That is very important from a policy certainty and to making sure that there is continuity and consistency in what we do. I'm sure you know this, that since Dr. Ivy Makasaburi in 2009, we've had about, I'll say, 10 ministers in 11 years.
Yes.
Since us taking office in October 2017, we've had 4 ministers being deployed to the SABC. So that for me is important to address and ensure that there is stability at the SABC from a political leadership point of view.
Should that matter though? Because I would think that the minister is just a representative of government, and if government has policies, whoever comes in, if by any chance like Roland Schoeman get appointed as the Minister of Communication, I must just continue with the policies of government.
Certainty is important. In what sense? When a new minister comes, they may want to be given a chance to understand where we are as an entity. That's putting a hold or brakes on a car that is on acceleration mode, because you have to afford him or her an opportunity to understand what are the issues, what are you going to do about the issues, and how you're planning the way forward. So that change does cause some level of instability and inconsistency and somehow affect the momentum of turning around the entity.
I have to ask you this question. Was the relationship with the minister that just left kosher?
We work well in our different respective role. Remember that as a board, we have fiduciary duty. There's certain things that we have to advance and drive. As a shareholder representative, she has a mandate from government to do certain things. And at times, there may be differences in terms of how we should approach certain things. When it got to the turnaround of the SABC, the executive put together that turnaround. It got approved by the board, and the minister brought in the assistance from National Treasury to help bolster that kind of a turnaround, to make sure that it's got input from other players. Of course, there will be instances where we won't agree. She's a politician, we're business people, we're here to run the SABC in line with the Public Finance Management Act, of course, Companies Act. There's a number of things that guides how boards need to run and how these organizations need to run. And at times it might be uncomfortable, but we have to do what is right, and she has to do what she needs to do as the minister.
Well, let's take a short break and continue on the other side of this with the chairman of the SABC, Musa Makatini.
More news and updates as we take a look at the week ahead. Ayanda, good afternoon. What are some of these sentiments being echoed?
They will not allow former President Jacob Zuma to imprison.
What needs to be factored in?
If it does not go to the Zondo Commission, then the Crown Court will then say you then have to go to jail.
The impact that COVID-19 has had on the police ministry.
We've seen over 30,000 infections.
We'll continue to bring you more news and updates. I'm your host, Lisa Wilson.
Cabinet this afternoon decided that the country should be moved from adjusted alert level 4 and be placed on adjusted alert level 3. Gatherings will be allowed but will be limited to a maximum of 50 people indoors and 100 people outdoors. Non-essential establishments such as restaurants, taverns, bars and fitness centers may be opened. The sale of alcohol from retail outlets for off-site consumption will be permitted between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. from Monday to Thursday. Attendance at funerals and cremations may not exceed 50 people. Night vigils and after funeral gatherings are still not allowed. Interprovincial travel for leisure may resume once more. Hours of curfew starting at 10 p.m. and will end at 4 a.m.
Silithimba letindzaba teSiswati sisebenza ukukhanda kuqinisekisa ukuthi uthola indzaba ngenjalo bato sashisa.
Sinilethela tepolitiki, temidlalo, temnotfo, temasiko kanye nesimo selitulu.
Siphindze sitfole netati kusihlathiyela tindzaba telilanga letihamba empilini.
Njalo ngalesibili nangalesine nga 5:30 ku SABC 1.
Bese shayela inkundla labantu bethu besindebele ngabonesihlanu. Njengengcenye yeSABC News sitimele futhi sithathe ihlangothi.
Are companies, like many South Africans, experiencing COVID fatigue?
A lot of employees are just not okay.
Are employers still taking precautionary measures to prevent the spread of the virus?
There are health and safety committees that are supposed to be in place.
Remember that you can be part of the show by asking our guests some of the questions that you may have in your mind. You can also share your thoughts and opinions with us on social media using Twitter, and that is at SABC Vital Signs, as well as Facebook at SABC Vital Signs. This is Vital Signs, and I am your host, Dr. Musamtomene.
Welcome back to Media and Society. My guest is board chairperson of the SABC, Musa Makatini, and we are discussing the SABC turning 85 years and what it means to you and me. Let's turn our focus to the commercial side of the SABC. But before I do that, I want to look at two tweets that just arrived that we need to to talk about quickly. A tweet coming from the woke dead says, a portion of funding for SABC comes from the taxpayers, but it seems business has more content control than needs of the people, since broadcaster plays critical role to socialization, culture. How are you aiming to achieve this? Okay, we're going to answer that question. Let's look at the second tweet. Ndlebentle Zombini says, the SABC is being micromanaged somewhere else. How on earth do you not renew the contract of Robert Marawa and tell us is the right decision for the SABC? Let me tell you this much, Qabash. I wanted to avoid the Robert Marawa question, but when it comes up, I can't avoid it. Let's start with that one.
Thank you. I mean, that's the independence that we've afforded you as the SABC journalists and presenters to ask any question you want to ask. The Robert Marawa issue is an operational matter. And I think it's important for people to be consistent. When we say politicians should not interfere on the editorial affairs of the SABC, similarly, the board should not interfere on employer-employee contract negotiations of employees. But suffice to say, Marawa had a 3-year contract, and his contract came to an end. Freelancer contract came to an end. Yours came to an end, all right?
It did.
So was there an uproar? There wasn't, all right? So we should be consistent as people, and we should allow management to do what they need to do. And as a board, we must hold them accountable. We must check the profitability of the business. We must check how they are implementing the corporate plan as approved by the board. But we should not interfere. There is a number of factors that they look at. They look at the cost of these programs. They look at the revenue generation. They look at what they need to do in balancing the interest. The SABC has got a huge public mandate to balance the interest of people. And it's not always easy because we have a limited resources. We have a limited pool of money. Remember that we only get 3% from government. 3%. We get money, the bulk of this business, 85% of SABC is driven by commercial revenue, which means we have to go out there and compete for advertising revenue. On our side, we have to cover sports of national interest, a lot of that. We have higher percentages of local content that SABC needs to cover, which is right. But secondly, we have to cover quite a lot of programs that talk to social cohesion that our government is driving. Look, during the COVID-19 pandemic, we had to make room and give space to government to do those conferences, which took forever, some of them.
And cost a lot of money.
And costed a lot of money. And that's what the SABC needs to balance at the end of the day. So the Robert Marawa issue is an operational matter. There's a lot of freelancers that have had their contracts coming to an end. And the truth of the matter is he has confirmed himself, and based on what management told us as a board, that he was given a 3-month notification that your contract will not be renewed.
Does it not matter, though, and I want to link it to the commercial question asked in the first tweet, that he had the numbers, that therefore it would be a commercial, maybe questionable decision to get him off air?
The truth of the matter is, they are matters that have commercial sensitivities, right? So I won't come here and start diverging, because when we venture into that, then we must diverge how much he was earning, how much money we're making, and then all of that. And that becomes too much of disrespectful to his employee contract with the employer. We have to respect him the same way we expect us to be respected. So those are commercially sensitive matters that I'm sure management team is dealing with it, and they will do what is necessary. And as a board, we have to hold them accountable and make sure that these platforms are performing.
To continue on the first tweet again, is Big Brother, the advertiser, the commercial, the financial bigwigs running the SABC compromising society, based on the question that was asked in the tweet?
Certainly not. We have an editorial policy that was launched last year in August, which really protect the independence of the SABC and editorial decision. I mean, for the first time, we've done away with the upward referral. So the editor-in-chief, the responsibility, the backstop with the GE News and current affairs. And that's for the first time. And it just provides you a sense of level of protection that we have. And if you look at some of the things, I mean, when you look at news, it's one of our key investments because it drives our public mandate. We spend close to R1 billion on news. On sport, we're spending millions and millions of rand. And that talks to public mandate. It's got nothing to do with the commercials. But at the end of the day, it must be said that SABC depends on commercial revenue. TV licenses Yes, as well as the grant of 3% that we get from government.
In fact I'm going to get to that. That is my next issue about TV licenses and stuff. But let's take a call. Jerome is calling us from Lepalale. Good morning, Jerome.
Good morning, Rams, and hi, Rams, and good morning to the chairman as well.
Yeah, we're listening.
Chairman, I just got a question for you, man.
Can you speak up a bit, Jerome? We're battling to hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can hear you loud and clearer.
Yes. Chairman, I just have a question, please, man. Will we ever get to a point where we'll have our national teams, like you've just mentioned, sports of interest, have those televised instead of having to compete with the likes of the pay TV channels?
Did you hear the question? I think it says, are we ever going to have our own channel for our own sports of interest instead of competing with others that are already covering other sports, commercial sport? I would think that's what he means.
Oh yes, thanks for the question. I mean, we did launch a 24-hour sport channel as the SABC, and the main reason for that was to make sure that we have a platform where we can air these sport events, unrestricted. However, sports rights is an issue that still needs to be dealt with in this country, where as the SABC we made submissions to ICASA to try and have them re-look at how sports rights are given and to make sure that free-to-air rights are unbundled so that SABC can be able to be given those rights and be able to make them available to the general public. And it is unfortunately discouraging that ICASA seem not to have taken into consideration some of the submissions that were done by the SABC. But from our side, we'll make sure that we have enough platforms where these sports rights and these sports of national interest are flighted.
Thanks, Jerome, for the question, by the way. How is the SABC doing commercially, financially? I know that there was a report of the first profit, at least quarterly profit, in the last 5 years. How are things looking?
We're starting to see the green shoots of some good returns. It does show that the team that we have in place and our employees are doing their very best to turn around this place. And it is really encouraging that for the first time in April, we saw about 43 million rands of profit. However, the SABC is still not out of the woods, considering the fact that there's been underinvestment on content and on technology. A lot still needs to be done. But the second thing that I've touched on is the huge public mandate that SABC has. We have to broadcast in all languages. Mm-hmm. We have to cover funerals, sports of national interest. We have to have a bigger percentage of local content, which other competitors don't have. So at the end of the day, it is important for us to tackle the funding model of the SABC, specifically as it talks to unfunded mandate. That is still an issue that still needs to be addressed because it is impossible to do all of this relying on commercial revenues.
And in the midst of all that, and I know it was not in your time, then family silver is given to competitor for almost nothing. I mean, how are we doing with this matter of multi-choice? Is there going to be some justice?
Let me correct this again and clarify it. No archives were sold or given to MultiChoice. There was a content carriage deal between MultiChoice and the SABC, and that deal came to an end in 2018. So basically, as we sit today, SABC owns and has control over all its archive material. The management team, by the way, is busy digitizing those archives so that we can be able to monetize it. So it is not true that archives were sold or given to MultiChoice.
The SABC does not seem to succeed in collecting licenses. From our viewers who are talking to us now, what's the best solution? And you said government only at least the fiscal only gives 3% of the running costs. Is there any other better way of getting money into the SABC?
Yes, there is. We've actually made a strong recommendation and submission to scrap the current TV license regime and replace it with a technology-neutral household levy, which is not necessarily going to be linked to how we currently do things. We've also further made a recommendation and submitted that the dominant pay TV providers should collect on behalf of the SABC because they've got systems, they've got about 8.2 million households in their system, so they can really assist us. And part of the reason why they should help it is because the current regulatory framework has benefited them at the expense of the public broadcaster. So it's one way of really redress and addressing the imbalances and how they've benefited unfairly. They must help us collect that levy. And of course, I must say that that levy will exempt indigent and give discounts to pensioners. And the other important aspect really talks to the public mandate. A number of government departments has a public mandate, and our recommendation is that they should set aside and ring-fence some money to be given to the SABC, of course adhering to our editorial guidance to make sure that we are able to cover those programs that are aimed at public mandate and really advancing the development agenda of the country. They should give that money to the SABC as opposed to them giving it to private players.
I'm glad you answered the question I did not ask. I was going to ask you about that, and thank you very much for that answer. But let's take another break, and when we come back, we take more of your calls and comments and questions. Please do call us. Don't touch that dial. We'll be back.
Surprise here is how little Yuri pays to ensure his Prado. What are you waiting for? SMS car to 44211 or call 08600 60,000 today for great premiums and awesome service from a brand you trust.
I'm an ex-offender. I served a 10-year sentence. Prison, like 16, 17 hours. Nekimamela radio every day. And Ukozi FM gave me hope during my hopelessness days. I'm a CEO and founder of Ukozi Solutions. Its primary focus is to deal with corruption, bribery, fraud, and theft. Imagine from prison to businesswoman / entrepreneur because of SABC Radio.
Start your day with Morning Live every weekday between 6 and 9 for updates on everything you need to know before you go. Catch up on stories making the news, your latest sports updates, weather and regular traffic reports.
Morning, Robbie. Good morning and welcome back to Morning Live.
Make sure to kickstart your day with Morning Live every weekday between 6 and 9 on SABC2 and SABC News Channel.
You will never have a difficulty on application of a principle that you...
Morning Live, everything you need to know before you go.
Consistent, unrelenting revolution is a marvel to capture and share with the rest of the world, where women like me are leading the fight against patriarchy, dismantling inequality in all of its forms, even in the media industry. I am seen and I am heard. What a time to be alive.
Being a young woman in South Africa today means that I'm privileged enough to know my rights and accompany those rights with responsibilities. There's an opportunity to be bold, to be free, to be daring, to be unique and take your place in the world. We are a fearless generation.
A mentor once told me it's not good enough for women to go knocking on doors. It's time to beat them down. And there's no better way to do it than under the spotlight. This has given me the courage to be the journalist that I am today and to be a leader in the forefront of news.
SABC News celebrates Women's Month.
In the past half hour or so, we have looked at the SABC's difficulties and challenges, but there have been positives. The latest report shows that the audience numbers are growing again, and as we speak, the SABC has the biggest share of eyes compared to other TV news channels. The SABC has also reported a profit for the first time in 5 years. So as we conclude our conversation with the board chairperson, Bongmusa Makatina, we're going to look at those positives, but let's start with some tweets that we have received, and we're going to take more of your calls on 011-714-6841 or 6842, and also tweet us at SABC_MNS, hashtag SABC Media and Society. First tweet from a man I think I know, Selby Bukava, says, for the first time I'm seeing an SABC employee putting tough questions to the board chair and the chair responding truthfully and honestly. The SABC brand has improved significantly, and under this board, big ups. Let's cross fingers, Selby, that I don't get fired after those tough questions. Mzwandile Spinda, does SABC board and management have external influence as far as organizational matters are concerned? Okay. And then Shwabara says, can we please, and it's in capitals, can we please have our official, all official languages on SABC? Isindebele, Chivenda, Chitonga, Chiswati programs are nowhere to be found on SABC. 2, if DSTV does not pay for SABC 1, 2, 3, then discontinue them on that platform. Okay, and then I think this is Lesego, I can't see, but I think it's Lesego Mokhotsi. What exactly is the problem at the SABC? Is it political interference, recruitment and appointment of wrong people to the board and management positions, the unresolved revenue collection other than the government handouts and unsustainable license fees? Is there any tangible proposal? I'm glad that we've answered that one, Lesego. If the chairman wants to add, he'll add on to that. Is there one last tweet? Well, we're done. We're done with the tweets. The issue of all official languages being covered on SABC it's a very serious issue, and it's been there for a long time. I'm speaking to you here in English. I will pick up a few programs on other languages, but there seem to be other languages that are not getting a fair share.
It's true, and this is why we've gone into a commercial partnership with eMedia Holdings to be able to have more channels on OpenView. That's one way we're trying to address that. But we also should give SABC credit. We have 19 radio stations, and each of those languages that were highlighted there does get some level of coverage from a radio platform. But also even on SABC 1, SABC 2, there are days where we alternate and we show different languages. But of course, we don't have enough TV channels to be able to cover all languages, and we have to do some balancing act, but I get the feedback, I hear the concerns, and we'll continue to look into that matter.
The other issue that was raised is, does the board and the management have some say on how things are run on a day-to-day basis? Well, at least the board, because management has to have a say, but the board.
The board really is there for oversight in terms of strategy, governance, and making sure that there is proper adherence to our policies as well as the corporate plan that was approved by the board. And we have a turnaround strategy and turnaround plan that was approved by the board that we need to make sure that it is implemented in the most efficient and the most appropriate manner. But we have no say in what happens in the newsroom as a board. And it would be tantamount to interference. But management team is the one that is running this place on a day-to-day basis, and we expect them to do that in the most responsible way, which they have been doing. I mean, if you look at the green shoots that we're already seeing, it's showing that SABC is turning around, and I want really to thank the employees of the SABC for giving their very best to help this entity turn around.
Let's deal with that issue of, because I want you to clarify, because I suspect many people don't understand it. What is the arrangement between SABC and MultiChoice on our programming being on their platform?
Thank you for asking that question. I mean, there is a regulation called mass carrier regulation. And that mass carrier regulation was meant to increase access, universal access to SABC platform. However, what became unfair, okay, the policy covers this, that there must be commercial negotiations between SABC and pay TV players, but somehow when it got to regulation, that commercial negotiation clause was taken out, which then meant SABC is giving its content to MultiChoice and other pay TV players without any financial benefit to the SABC, which is unfair because that content costs us millions and millions of rands. Secondly, they're using that content to drive audiences into their platform because the highest watched programs are on SABC 1 and SABC 2. But I'm excited to see that ICASA has put regulations to review that stance exactly, to bring back commercial negotiations, which is going to be another revenue stream for the SABC, which we will then be able to charge them for carriage deals and for carrying our channel SABC 1, 2, and 3. So it's currently being reviewed, and I'm hoping that the public will also be able to give their input, supporting the SABC to have the mass carrier regulation reviewed and done away with.
The issue of credibility comes up a lot when we talk about the SABC. And, we spoke about advertisers leaving and people leaving because of credibility, but we see in the numbers coming back. How do we, though, safeguard that this does not happen again? When I walk the streets and I say to people I work for the SABC, I don't see frowns. I mean, they're hidden by masks now, but, in the past I would be seeing the frowns.
The truth of the matter is having the right people in right roles, having the right competent board that is committed to the real turnaround and the success and the sustainability of the entity, having the right management team in place, having the right employees doing their work with honesty and with diligence. That is important. But also having, I spoke about a champion in cabinet, having a political leadership that believes in the SABC and that supports what SABC is about. And having the general public continuing to watch our programs, paying their TV licenses, and having government departments setting aside money to fund the unfunded mandate. That is important.
We have two callers on the line calling us on 011-714-6841. Well, we've lost one, but we've got another. Joseph is calling us. Oh, they've left. It may mean that you've answered the questions. We've lost both callers. As we conclude, what is in the pipeline to get us to the next level as a broadcaster?
What I've mentioned of that we've underinvested on technology and content. So the board has approved a digital strategy that will see an OTT platform of the SABC being launched. There's going to be a tender. Management is dealing with it. I'm sure before the end of this current financial year, there's going to be an OTT platform which will allow us to monetize and commercialize all the content that we have, because currently we're relying on other platforms. That's one key thing. The second thing is the commercial sales team has done an amazing job in selling our prime time and making sure that we bring back advertisers. They must continue having deals like the deal we have with Telkom One, the deal that we have with OpenView, where we are able to get more channels and truly become multi-platform, multi-channel organization that is able to survive and thrive under the digital world.
Well, Peter seems to have reloaded his airtime from Cape Town. Peter, good morning.
Hi, morning, Mr.
Yes, sir. We're listening to you.
Kunjani?
Siyaphila kunjani mhlakazi?
Yeah, into engikhalelayo ngo-SABC, why benefuna i-license kodwa kana signal?
Andikuva kakuhle khawuphinde.
Why benefuna sibhadala TV license mar akana signal?
Oh.
Wafaka lapho i-plug lakho, ufake i-plug lakho, but awusoze ubone into clear picture i-TV yakho ka-SABC. Uthi ufakele DSTV isitsha, then ufumane a nice picture.
Okay. Diabulela mhlakazi. Tebogo is also on the line. I can't remember where you're calling us from. Tebogo, from Johannesburg. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the unbelievable discussion. But I just want to call on the chair to work with us as civil society, and we really need to call on the politicians to make SABC great again. And why do I say that? This partnership with the commercial guys like your e-platforms and stuff like that, they actually they one-sided. they don't actually make SABC great, but they make SABC dependent on them. And we need to do something because we live in a world of technology, guys. So we can make it possible. And we had a great indaba with the musicians, with the CEO and the executives. Thank you so much. But I think we need another one where we will discuss these issues about the bill, the SABC bill, and the broadcast bill, so that we can actually merge the two to make sure that we find solutions to make SABC independent and great again.
Thank you, Tebogo. I just want you to answer Peter's question in 30 seconds, if you can. It will always be an issue. If I'm a payer, I want everything. I don't want to get under a bridge and lose my signal. I don't want to have my 2-ear aerial and not pick up my television.
Yeah. Thank you for that question. I mean, the second biggest cost driver, by the way, for the SABC is signal distribution. And that's why we are in intense negotiations with Centec to review the tariffs. That's one. But the signal connectivity is a Centec responsibility. I'm glad they've raised it. We'll continue to engage with it. We've actually brought in ICASA and Competition Commission to help mediate and review Centec tariff because we feel they are unreasonable and anti-competitive.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have, Mhlonisho, on this subject. Thank you very much to the chairperson of the SABC, Musa Makatini, and happy 85th birthday to the broadcaster. When we come back, we go to our features, the game changer and video of the week. Be part of the show.
Millions of viewers across Mzansi tune into Expresso Morning Show to enjoy our entertainment, our recipes, and important current affairs and updates. And they can do so because they pay for their TV licenses. For less than 74 cents a day or just 265 Rand for the entire year, you can save a premium breakfast entertainment every weekday from 6 to 9 a.m. right here on S3. For super fast, secure, and very convenient payment from any device, you can go to tvlic.co.za and click on the Fast Pay button for payment under 3 minutes. Make a difference to your mornings with Expresso and TV licenses and pay yours.
We take a look at some of the big stories to come out of the week, what has been making headlines and, of course, getting South Africans talking. SAPRA has approved the CoronaVac vaccine.
So what we ask for is for lab data.
Now, we've also seen this week where hundreds of supporters of former President Jacob Zuma have defied government's lockdown regulations. The number of people crossing into South Africa illegally from Eswatini has increased in recent days.
We're not 100% sure how safe they are in Swaziland.
From our studios in Auckland Park, I'm your host, Lisa Wilson.
Ekasi Bioscope is an initiative founded by Vicky Denise Trili, a young social worker who is inspiring her community with the power of storytelling. Trili uses a projector, an open space, and chairs to showcase this theatre experience for the youth in her community. I remember it very well, Neribiza Bioscope. Though most of the screening happens within the community of Umlazi, she hopes to expand this initiative to other parts of KwaZulu-Natal. Our producer, Lwavela Jongilanga, sat down with Trili to find out more about Ekasi Bioscope.
What inspired you to start Ekasi Bioscope?
Ekasi Bioscope, let me just start by saying it's a fun-filled movie experience that happens indoors and outdoors. So it started back in June 2016 at King Shaka High School. At the time, I was working as a youth coach for the school, more like a learner supporter agent. So kids will come to me and tell me their issues they are facing at home, like drug abuse, bullying, to name a few. So I came up with an idea, like I wanted to create a platform whereby it would be easy for them to express themselves and also at the same time learn and find solutions. So I thought of, you know what, back in the days we used to have a Bioscope at schools where we paid 2 Rand to watch a movie, karate movies, and Sivalama Winding, Plastic. So it was fun, you know, we're looking forward to go to school those days because we was a Bioscope. So I thought of, okay, let's have a bioscope and have a twist to it though. We would see, we watch African-inspired movies that will spark conversation and give us a platform. We would see sikhulume about our issues, learn from each other and inspire each other. So that's how it started after numerous cases I received from learners. And from there, we never stopped. Yeah.
You mentioned that your audience consists of school-going children. Talk to me about that.
I decided, because I was working at the high school at the time, I saw that high school kids have issues. So primary school kids usually like neglected in a way. I would say neglected. So I thought, let me target young kids, and so they could be able to channel their behavior in a good direction. So movies is one part of behavior change. I believe we learn more from movies. Watching movies is therapeutic sometimes. I feel like when you're watching a movie, for especially us at Kasi Bioscope, it's beyond just watching a movie. You just want to give people an experience so that they can be able to express themselves, learn from each other, and also feel part of the movie. Yeah.
So just quickly take me through the selection process. What's the criteria for the movies that you choose to showcase for Ekasi Bioscope?
We watch African-inspired movies. We watch local movies. At the moment, I'm also recruiting people who are filmmakers in the townships for us to work together so that we can showcase our stories. We can showcase our stories. I believe if, for instance, I'm an actor and I'm see me on TV, acting, watching a movie, say, we'll be inspired.
How different is Ekasi Bioscope compared to, you mentioned that back in the day when you were growing up, you were also exposed to this kind of experiencing movies. So how different is Ekasi Bioscope?
Ekasi Bioscope is different because it's free for the kids. And also that I'm bringing that culture because even my setup, we have a projector. I just want to give the kids the experience because it was exciting. At the same time, have, for instance, edutainment. We don't just watch movies. Like, let's say the movie started 1 p.m. Kids will be there maybe 12:30, So let's provide edutainment for the kids while they're waiting. Have puzzles, table soccers, things to keep them thinking. Yeah, so Ekasi Bioscope is a fun-filled movie experience. As I said, it's a jam-packed entertainment for the kids. Yeah.
You earlier mentioned that the initiative has been in existence for 5 years. Talk to me about some of the challenges that you faced throughout those 5 years and possibly like challenges that you're facing right now.
To name some of the challenges, I would say choosing a movie is also a challenge because you need to get also permission to screen a movie for an audience. And you need to pay for that movie also. So finances, sometimes I'm struggling because in most cases I use my own money to prepare for the movie sessions. And also COVID-19 last year, I've planned a lot of sessions that were educational for the kids. So I had to cancel them, all of them, because COVID pandemic was there and social gatherings were prohibited, So I had to come up now with another innovative way to keep the culture going. So in December last year, we did a drive-in cinema in the community. So I didn't think that it was necessary. I didn't think of a drive-in. I was like indoors. But when we did a drive-in last year, I was like, wow, we are really growing, and a drive-in cinema is more safe. and people enjoy a movie in their comforts of their cars. And it's another aspect that the township people are not familiar with. So one of the challenges is also that, this culture, people are not familiar. You have to keep on doing it, even though you're not getting the support that you anticipate, but you shouldn't stop. You should do it so that people will appreciate it and come. So yeah, that's that, the culture of watching movies in the township is just not there yet, because there are no cinemas in the township. So that culture is just dying. They watch movies, Netflix and everything. So now everything is just online, and that's also a challenge. That's why we are at Jam-Packed Entertainment, so that people never for a purpose,
You mentioned the fact that the movies that you screen are African, African based. You're telling, screening movies that are telling our stories. So how difficult or how easy is it for you to source out this material? And also, where do you source it out from?
It's difficult to source out the material. As I've said, you need to pay for it. You need to do izinto right so that you get permission. There are agencies that you speak to, So after you have watched the movie with the audience, they tell you need to delete the movie, so that you don't share it. We know there's an issue of piracy in the country. So yeah, that's also an issue. But I feel like recruiting, and encouraging filmmakers in the townships will really boost us a lot. Working with them and also encourage them, because now there are people who want to be filmmakers, but they don't have enough resources, So whatever opportunity is there, I share with them so that they can be encouraged to do their movies, and also know it's okay. We have our own cinema, So it doesn't matter whether you win an Oscar or not, but the fact that the movie was watched by people, that's a win for me, So we need to encourage each other, inspire each other. Yeah.
So it's been 5 years of Ekasi Bioskop. What else lies ahead for Ekasi Bioskop? Talk to me about your future plans for this great initiative.
Oh, that's a very exciting question, and also a scary one. Because I have these ideas, when you think about, because when we started, we started with social media. I was actually entering a competition because I had it in mind. One day I would like to have a cinema, but I was saving up for a cinema. I wasn't looking for any sponsorship, but that I entered, and the person was there like, okay, I'm going to give you the equipment, so that's how it started. So the future plans, when I think about it, is that I want to create the same culture in other communities, like in Tuzuma, Guamashu, whereby I employ young people to be ambassadors for Ekasi Bioskop, whereby, for instance, we screen the same movie, same time, but different location, So that movement is just in my head right now. It's okay, we can have this movement, and we can be a mobile movie service. We don't need to be in one place. We can be anywhere in the world, as long as we have the equipment and have the people with the heart to carry this work, because it's too much to carry, but you have to have the heart for it.
Vicky Dennis Trili, in the words of the late and legendary Vuyo Mbuli, Ubosoen. That was our game changer of the week. And if you want to be featured, or somebody who is a game changer, please send us your profile or their profile at mediasociety@sabc.co.za, or simply send us a tweet at SABC_MNS. For this week's video of the week, we take a look at a clip of police officers seen in a video that has gone viral, in which an 18-year-old schoolgirl is dragged and shoved into the back of a police vehicle According to social media reports, the police officers have been identified and are being investigated for the incident. The incident is reported to have taken place in Krugersdorp on Tuesday. Let's now take a look at this video. Chilling stuff, and this is what you had to say about this video on social media. These are the tweets that we received. Rake Mode says, this happened yesterday in Krugersdorp. Men dressed in police uniform dragged one of the learners from a Jan de Klerk High School in Krugersdorp. I personally feel like these aren't legit officers. Khoshi Khadi Abapedi says, I called the Krugersdorp police, but they are the police, bona labotsotsi, and the girl is fine. Angsakwatanga, namkwatile ngiyakutshela. Oli Mujela says that's kidnapping. The guy handling her is wearing a face mask that's covering the whole head. Criminals, these ones, everything is just wrong here. The girl taking a video should have taken the registration number of the vehicle as well. Damn. I know, but it's not always easy at the time when it happens. And I think one other tweet is Mbuyazi says, I have seen a lot of police officers traveling in private cars around Krugersdorp. They arrest mostly people breaking lockdown rules, walking without a mask on the street. But before they do, they ask you to put on your mask. Possible this girl was rude to them. Never a justification for that treatment. And lastly, Kwena Paul says a young lady is abused by the police in Krugersdorp during Women's Month. Well, thank you to everyone for watching and participating on Media and Society on the SABC News channel, independent and impartial. From me, Rams Mabote, goodbye and God bless.